The GBNews pub is open. Joining me tonight is Tracey Miller, author, youth worker and former gang member. Tracey, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
To the programme. Not at all. Now, policing, much in the news. Mm-hmm. And it kind of in London always is, isn't it? You know, you're from Brixton, and I remember, 40 years ago, there were huge disputes about the sus laws. That debate goes on today in terms of stop and search and what the police should do and what the police shouldn't do. Mm-hmm. Cressida Dick's gone. We've now had Ken Marsh of the Police Federation today expressing no confidence in Sadiq Khan. I mean, it's a real mess. Before doing these great works that you're doing, we're going to share just with the audience a little bit. You kind of fell into bad ways quite early on.
That's correct. When I was younger, I just couldn't behave, and that was due to a bad home life. Yeah. I just feel like my foundations weren't set correctly, so I felt angry at the world, and I just took my anger to the streets.
And you got involved in gangs?
Indeed, I did.
And those gangs were involved with, I guess, drugs?
Various things.
Violence?
Various things.
Well, I mean, I've looked at your CV, and, you sort of carrying knives, and I think you were shot once, and... Is it very easy, living in inner London, is it very easy to get involved in gang culture?
It's not easy growing up in South London or London in particular. And, yeah, there are things that I did when I was younger. You listed a few. It's not something I'm proud of.
No, sure.
So I don't want your viewers to think that by any means I'm proud of anything I've done in the past. But because of the past that I did have, I felt like I can help young people get past it and not... live a wayward life. But, yeah, it is hard. You're surrounded by different things that young people shouldn't see. You're exposed to different things, just being on the streets, just walking along your normal estate. So you do pick up stuff that you shouldn't really be picking up or seeing, Do
you think these young people today, growing up in South London or wherever it is, do they resent the police?
They don't trust the police. They don't like the police. And it's something that... I can't lie, in the Jamaican household, in the black culture community, culture, police are not trusted. You don't speak to police, you don't call for police, you don't ask for help. If you're going through the worst things, you just deal with it yourself. And I think that does need to change.
But the police have a job to do.
They have a job to do, but what is the job they are actually doing? If it means they're going to keep stopping and searching young black boys in hoodies, it just shows there's an unfairness. Is it a conscious bias? Is it an unconscious bias? And therefore they have no trust in the police.
Well, they might be stopping white boys in hoodies.
I haven't seen that really often when I'm out and about on the streets. Have you seen young white boys being stopped often? I haven't.
I rarely see the police on the streets, to be honest with you. I mean, I'd like to see more of them. But as I said to you at the start of this conversation, I remember 1981 and that incredible friction that was there between, and it was predominantly Jamaican or households that had come originally from Jamaica and the police. And kind of what you're telling me is 40 years on, it's no better.
It's no better. There are good and bad in all sectors of life. You have some good officers, because I've seen for myself, you've got some officers that genuinely do care, but you've got some bad seeds as well, and they need to be weeded out. It's as simple as that. Knife
crime is going up every year. The percentage climbs over the last sort of 5-7 years are quite alarming. It seems that some young people now are carrying knives as protection because they think the other person may have a knife.
That's fair to say, yep.
And I think that is happening.
Yep.
What the hell do we do, Tracey?
I just think parents need to grab hold of their children and school them, show them love and let them know that's not the way to be. That's, if you carry a knife, there's that chance that you're actually going to use it. And it's that fear that they have as well. Maybe if they participated in sports and stuff where they could do self-defence, they wouldn't feel the need to be armed. And the thing is, knives are so accessible. They're in your mum's kitchen. They're everywhere. So it's something that goes unnoticed.
OK, so parenting is important.
Parenting is 100%.
And you had a bad start on that score.
Important. And education as well. And just, I don't know, a lot of youngsters don't do it. They don't do it because they want to. Like you said, they feel like they have the need. They need to do it. They need to protect themselves. So it's just education and letting them know that you all can get on, you all can agree. If you don't, there's fisticuffs. You can have a normal fight. You don't have to want to take a life. You don't have to push a sharp object into someone who you dislike. you know, so they need to be rewired, so to speak.
So I get the parenting bit, you know, but not everybody has, and you were one, not everybody has a fortunate home life situation, so it's more difficult for them. Where do the schools fit in, or don't they?
The schools do fit in because they can pick up on children's behaviour from early. For example, when I was going through my wayward behaviour stage, I did have some form of intervention, but it wasn't enough. So they can tell when kids seem depressed, something's not right at home. They're with kids most of the time. As you are with the family, you are in school. It's like you spend a lot of time at work. I'm sure your colleagues would pick up on a day when you're not so happy.
Oh, almost every day. No, it's not true. It's not true. It's not true. So, Tracey, what do you do now to try and inspire people? To try and help kids not fall off?
So what I done in 2014, I think, I released a book about my life, and it wasn't for me to glamorise myself and try and get famous or make money. It was about youngsters seeing that actually it's all a dream. What you think it is, it's not that. It was for politicians to look and see what lives were like for children like myself. It was for parents to have a look and think about what children are doing when they're away from their periphery. You know, so I just speak to kids, I mentor and do different things. I've got youngsters that can call me on my actual mobile phone any time of the night and let me know that something's not right, and I'll just advise them. You can't dictate to children, you can't force them, but you can give them other ways and other things and other viewpoints to look at, and it's all about perceptions, isn't it?
Yeah. No. Well, I get it that you're out there and you're trying, and that's a really positive contribution that you're making. But as I said, it does seem things are getting worse. I mean, drugs are just everywhere. Knives are being carried by more and more young people. I mean, do you feel, if you look forward from where we are now, do you feel optimistic we can turn our cities around, or are we in decline? Are we in a downward spiral?
I'm always optimistic. I live that kind of life. I live in an optimistic bubble. It's good to be positive. I just think youngsters need more role models. Also, there's a lot of things that they take in from TVs and music and stuff that could send them on a path of badness. It's influence.
Do you mean drill music and some of the really
why would
aggressive
it be drill music?
Well, because it uses words that...
Whatever music is not satisfactorily good at the time for youngsters to hear, I'll just put it on that. It's not necessarily just drill music.
It's pretty violent stuff, though, isn't it?
But then that's like saying they can watch James Bond. What does James Bond show? He's an assassin and a lovely man, but he's an assassin and a womanizer. And he's good with guns. And it seems that it's okay, you know? So it depends on what the child's watching and what they take from what they're watching and what they think they can bring into real life.
I don't know. I mean, I don't listen to that music, but I have...
You should try it.
I've heard it. I've been quite shocked by it, actually. Shocked by the language, shocked by the... It's pretty anti-women, isn't it? It's, you know, the males are supreme, the women do as they're told. It's quite aggressive. I mean, some of this stuff's quite aggressive.
I just feel like it's their form of expression. If you can't express yourself through music, what can you do? I'd rather they express themselves through music than take to the streets and act out.
One thing was certain. If you use those if anyone used that language here at GBNews, they'd be out the door before.
But what language are you referring to?
Oh, you know the words they use and the way they talk about women. And anyway, look, I don't want to dwell on it, but I mean there are aggressive influences out there in life.
Yeah.
And you know I get that. I think James Bond. Well, yes, you're right. He is a professional assassin. However. Apart from that, he takes out baddies, and that's the moral of the story, I guess. So, Tracey, you think we can turn this around? You think we can... I mean, sport 100%. You mentioned, and I had...
Sport? Well, sport would be good if they could learn self-defence, maybe be a bit more confident when they're out and about. They got into an altercation.
Yeah, I had Duke McKenzie on the programme a few months ago from Croydon. So, you know, again, South London. And, you know, phenomenal professional, you know, world champion boxer, all the rest of it. And that's one of the points that he made, was that, you know, where he grew up in Croydon, there just isn't the access somehow to sport unless you've got money. And it's very, very difficult. Maybe sport's one way, maybe education's one way.
Definitely education.
Maybe just more people like you going out and doing their best to try and mentor and train people.
And parents definitely need to play their part. I understand that parents can get lost in having to go to work and provide for their children, but they also need basic things like love and attention and care. And it goes a long way.
Do you think parents are scared of tackling teenage kids?
I work with teenage kids, and yes, they are. They are very scared of their children, and it's like, come on, get a grip. You birthed this child. Get back in touch, reconnect. they're still children, and I think people don't have enough empathy. It's all good to want to write them off when they're doing wrong, but they are still children, and there's a reason for their behaviour, you know?
Final thought, Tracey Miller. What role do you see for the church in all of this?
The church.
Does the church exist in these communities?
The church, or do you mean just a religion in general?
Just religion in general. Because I do notice, some Sundays I've been driving through South London, and I do notice, actually, there are congregations heading off to churches, kind of, particularly in the black community, some of the evangelical type churches appear
that can
to
be
have
helpful.
good followings.
That can be helpful. I attended a church, even though I was raised in an Islamic household and I went to the mosque. There were times where I did attend the church, and it is a warm and inviting environment. But again, it's what those particular parents are teaching their kids when they're away from the church, and it depends on how extreme they are when they're talking about religion and God and what children should be doing. So again, it's back to the parents.
Yeah, right, there we are. It's up to you folks at home to make sure your teenagers all behave. Tracey Miller, thank you
Thank
for joining me here on Talking Pints.